Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
तेरे भाई ने मचाया है वो आगे भी मचाएगा, सपना है ये उसका ऐसा एक दिन आएगा जब ये पूरा देश उसकी पीठ थपथपाएगा। लाइफ नहीं थी आसान पर हिम्मत नहीं हारी मैंने, दर्द सारे और सारी मुश्किल हेड ऑन झेली है सारी मैंने। एमबीए के कोर्स में मुझे खून का करना पानी है, कुछ बड़ा मचाने की तेरे भाई ने जो अब ये ठानी है। My name is Abhishek Goyal. I passed out of IIT Bombay as a civil engineer in 2015, and I have appeared for the CAT for 6 times now. I always was and have been interested in understanding how a business runs. And when I joined IIT, I had this thought that maybe MBA would be the right thing to do, as I got more exposure and talked to a lot of my seniors and got industry exposure with respect to doing internships in a couple of multinational firms. This belief got strengthened that an MBA is the right way or the path for me. I started preparing back in 2014, and 2014 CAT was my first attempt at CAT. I was doing well in the sectionals, in the mocks that I was appearing for. However, in the final examination, it did not really pan out well. I scored a 99.26 percentile. The objective always had been to join IIM A, B, C. Got calls from other colleges from ranging from Lucknow, Kozhikode, etc. I was able to convert all of them, but I decided not to go ahead and wait my chance. So my advice to many of the aspirants is that if you are comfortable yourself with a degree from not an ABC, so just go ahead with it. Eventually, it all depends, and it all boils down to how much effort you put in the organization. There's some maybe difference with respect to from where you start, but that is minimal, and in the long run, it all gets averaged out. Over the years, when I joined corporate, things get a little difficult, in terms of time management. They have certain expectations from you, and when you're new to any organization, there are some new skills that you need to learn. As a result of which, over the years, what happened is that priority for preparing for CAT and cracking CAT got pushed a little bit, and eventually it took me 6 attempts, right? So that's not the recommended path, I would say, but in case you are patient and you think that you can make it, go ahead with it. So with respect to my preparation strategy, because I'd appeared for CAT so many number of times, this time when I started preparing, I had this goal of scoring at least 180 marks, like the raw score, because basis my analysis from the previous years, I believed that this score could get me a good enough percentile. So basis my understanding, I started with the thought that I should at least get 180. Eventually, that plan was successful. I scored 187 raw score. And with respect to the sectional, so I was weak in VA. Over the years, I could not cross the 95, 96 percentile barrier in VA. And I reached out to a lot of mentors. So they had suggested to read from diverse topics, and that was the only way I could get a good score. And that is what I did. So I started reading Hindu editorials, and initially also started jotting down the main points. And it was a very tedious and time consuming process, but only after you go through that process, you get that comfort with that section, right? So what happened is from I started in about June this year when I started preparing. And from that point on to the day till CAT, I read sources that I used were Hindu, Live Mint, Guardian, and it is divided into 2 sections primarily. One is the ideas, which are about 1200 words or so. So I started with that. And once you get a sense of ease in reading those psychology or philosophy articles, then you can maybe move on to essays, which are about 3000 words. So that was my approach. I read as much as possible. This year, the verbal section was rather difficult as compared to the previous years, but my score increased from a 95 percentile to a 98.60 percentile. I already had put in a lot of effort in one of my previous attempts in DILR. So my primary focus this year was to solve as many mocks as possible with respect to like previous year mocks or this year current year mocks, and then try and analyze where I'm going wrong. for someone who is starting afresh, maybe preparing for the first time, I would recommend that there are some techniques with respect to solving DILR questions. You get yourself acquainted with that first, and then maybe move on to solving mocks. So the techniques that I'm referring to are, so there are some shortcuts, tables that you need to learn. There are some formulas which would help you. Then there are some arrangement questions. And there's a specific knowledge around the language in which the questions are framed. So just develop a sense of ease there. And once you have that, and once you have your basics in place, go ahead, solve the mocks, try and analyze those. Now, moving on to quantitative ability, being an engineer and being from IIT, I was always comfortable in QA. I had put a lot of effort in my first attempt in getting to know all the formulae, the tricks and tips here and there. So that's how my strategy had been this year. I was preparing with a very good friend of mine. So both of us focused on getting the basics in place, knowing all the formulae, all the shortcuts. So approaching CAT is a little different from approaching JE, right? So there are formulas that you need to know which will help you speed up solve a question. So I would recommend that you get those basics in place first, and then start writing mocks. And so it's a symbiotic process, sort of, that the basics part and writing the mocks part go hand in hand. But if you really have to choose one, I would say get the basics right, go for mocks. Then you would again come across some topics in which you are not comfortable, you are not able to answer the questions at all, or you are taking a lot of time, you are making some silly mistakes here and there every time. And then maybe you can go back to the drawing board and try and see and juggle the pieces back into place. So with respect to advice to future aspirants, I can tell you a couple of mistakes that I did and maybe would not want you to repeat the same. So the first thing that a lot of us do is, and what I term it is, passion for resource collection. So what happens is that there are a lot of coaching institutions now. There's a lot of material available for CAT, and there is this passion in some of us that you would want to collect material of each of these coachings. And then you have everything, but then वो उसमें डायलॉग था थ्री इडियट्स में, ये दिल घबरा जाता है, like you feel scared कि now where do I start, there is so much to cover. So don't do that, just have one material, stick to it, solve it end to end. And the other issue that also happens with collecting a lot of resources is, so for example, I get interested in solving TSD, and I develop an interest in that particular topic. What I would do is I would go ahead and solve it from 10 different coaching institutes materials, but that's not the right way. However, in that time, what you can do is maybe you can try and cover 10 different topics from a single material, right? So that is the right approach. I gave a lot of mocks, but I did not analyze them properly. So my focus then was to expose myself to a lot of questions, to all the questions that could that were probable to appear in the CAT, but I did not analyze them. And as I mentioned, I did not know the best practices. So I was not able to materialize that effort and optimize my effort in the final CAT examination, and which resulted in a poor score. One more thing that I did and a lot of us do is, so for example, you are listening to me. I also listen to a lot of CAT toppers. Previously, I've read a lot of articles as well with respect to what their strategies were. One thing that we need to realize is that all of us are different. What works for me might not work for you. What worked for that particular individual did not work for me. But then eventually, like with respect to the overall wholesome preparation strategy, try and figure out what works best for you. I got a call from all the IIMs, excluding Kozhikode and Indore, based on my 10th and 12th scores. But I appeared for interviews for ABCL. Out of those, I have converted ABL, and C I am waitlisted right now.